there is a press conference on a Thursday, and there is some anticipation as to it being a good time in which in the past there has been a starter named at this point. So this could be the day.
Could be the day. We will see. When we talked to Brian Day after the first practice back on the 1st of August, he said that he'd like to have somebody named within 7 to 10 days, or within those 2 weeks. And then you look at the schedule that we have with them, and you go out 2 weeks later from that day, and you're looking at the possibility of Ryan Day naming a starter. Now, we haven't seen anything from since Thursday, but last Thursday, Will Howard took all of the first team reps that we saw. Chip Kelly and Ryan Day both said don't read into any of that. But of course, when it's just one guy taking reps with the ones, I'm not sure you can read into anything other than the fact that he's with the ones right now. So I like I was telling you before the show, I'm going to go ahead and pre-write the story of Will Howard being named the starter. However, I will also tell you I've rewritten the story before for other quarterbacks, and Ryan Day has never, when there's been any kind of quarterback battle, has never named a starter before the second scrimmage. And so we are coming up. Tomorrow is the 15th. He named CJ Stroud the starter on the 21st of August. He named Justin Fields the starter on the 19th of August. So if Ryan Day breaks character and names Will Howard the starter or Devin Brown the starter tomorrow, that would be a bit of a surprise. However, after what they went through last year, I also have no doubt that he wants to name a starter as soon as possible. And if he feels like they can, he will. Last year I was fully expecting him to name the starter at this point. And it went into 2 or 3 weeks of the season. We anticipated, but he has his own timelines, even when it's clearly obvious that somebody is the starter, like with Justin Fields. It was clearly he took every single rep with the ones for the first 2+ weeks of camp. It was clear, but he still waited until after that second scrimmage before he said anything.
Steve, why am I not surprised that Tony gave us the exact date in which Ryan Day named his last couple starting quarterbacks?
Well, it just makes sense. I think when you think about it, we talked a little bit off before we started about how they have 2 Saturday scrimmages, one last Saturday, one this coming Saturday. And it just makes sense that after the second one and you're 2 weeks out from the first game, that's the natural time to do it, and pare down the reps and give everybody a role. I mean, you got 5 quarterbacks, and they need to give these guys roles for what they're going to be doing during practice going forward. And it is a luxury to carry 5 quarterbacks, certainly, in case somebody were to get hurt. You do have some options to throw somebody else in there. So I do think it will be Will Howard. The times that we watched, he was probably the most consistent. I think Devin Brown, by some accounts, did have a pretty good scrimmage last week. I don't have many or any details beyond just some abstract concepts that he played pretty well. And the offensive line was still kind of beset by some virus issues last weekend. But beyond that, nothing extraordinary that we heard came out of that. So I'm of a belief that things in motion will continue in motion, and that's Will Howard. He seemed to be the one closest ready to produce this season when we saw them. So that's my story, and that's what I'm sticking with until somebody can prove otherwise. I can't imagine he's going to get unseated as the quarterback of this team.
So with 3 cupcakes to start the season, is there any negative to saying we're playing 2 quarterbacks for week 1? We'll commit to that week 1 publicly, maybe even thinking this is going to be the approach maybe for 2 games or for 3 games. You give the backup quarterback valuable playing time, and you let these guys, and you know who Will Howard is. we don't know who he is with Ohio State complementary pieces around him, but we know who he is as a starting quarterback for 2.5 years in big-time college football. But let's say Julian Sayan's the next guy, or Devin Brown's the next guy. Especially with Devin Brown not being able to get that full audition that we anticipated last season, let him play. Or is that naturally going to transpire because you're up 50-0?
I think what's going to happen is when Ryan Day names his starter, he will say, but so-and-so is still going to play. We're going to need more than one. And he's going to incorporate that as well. But what you're talking about, Mark, is the norm. Like it's what you do early in the season when you've got a schedule like this. It's what they've always done, what teams have always done. You play the backup to get him some reps in games where there's the outcome isn't in doubt. That helps them in case there's an emergency situation later on. And so, yeah, I fully expect him to, let's just assume he's going to name Will Howard the starter. In the next breath, he's going to say, but Devin Brown's going to play, and we're going to need him to play. And you're right, he does not have a ton of experience despite the playing time that he got last year. So much of that is you're the change of pace guy. You come in and you'll help the run game. He needs to come in and be able to throw the ball around like he does in practice, frankly, and get that kind of experience and get that kind of comfort level in a real game. As much as you can call these games real games, I mean, they count in standings, so I guess they're real, but they're not the real kind of test that will come down the road. And you don't want the first time he's out there in that kind of situation to be against somebody legitimate. And, you know, we don't know what would have happened if he stayed healthy against Missouri last year, but that's kind of the example. Like the first time he gets thrust into anything, it's that kind of game. And so it's important to get these guys both snaps and both throws, frankly, because there are too many times where the backup, or, you know, the number of throws for the backup or the third guy has been too few over the years at times for Ohio State.
So my point is more to the fact, are they going to give Devin Brown those reps when it's 45-7 or when it's 0-0 on the third drive of the game? Or maybe they're down 3-0. And even though it is Akron and it's not Iowa, that it's just a different feel to the game at that point.
Yeah, I think you're not going to see the third series of the game. I think it's Howard's team. I think Howard will be in there, you know, until he either falters or they're up 28-0. And I think that, you know, the other guys are just going to have to accept the fact that it's his team, and they will get work around the edges, you know, when those times come. I mean, if you're up 21-0 in the second quarter, sure, you know, maybe put somebody in for a series just to see how it goes. But I do believe you got to find a way to get Julian Sayan some throws in here somewhere as well in live action in one of these first or two of these first three games. And, you know, I just think that he's a guy that's got to get his feet wet. Brown's at least played a little bit here and there. I think Sayan is a guy that if they feel like can help him this year, that they get him in there and get him a few snaps here or there. But, yeah, I believe that it's Howard's team, and he's got to take, you know, that's the most important thing, is building a rhythm and a rapport with him and the receivers and the offensive line and getting it down in those first three games. Because after that, I mean, gradually the challenges get tougher. Michigan State on the road, Iowa at home, at Oregon. It doesn't get any tougher than that. So you got to be ready for weeks 4, 5, and 6, or you've done your team a complete disservice if you're not ready by the end of game 3.